Cool. So anyway, my name's Luke. I'm a coach. I focus on mental health with people, and it's really important to me because when I realized that the foundations of our happiness as humans comes from our mental health, and when we have a really healthy mind, that it kind of flows into our relationship, our careers, everything else. That's when I really had to work on it myself. And I won't go into my story because I'll be going on forever. And this topic is a great topic to be talking about today. So I want to thank you all for attending, because with the whole personal development, once you get into it, it's such a great commitment to have, because through our life, just growing continuously, it's not an easy thing to sign up for. But when we do sign up for it, you can really get to some great places, and we just continue to learn. I still go on the journey myself. So yeah. So with this topic today, don't make your next pay for your ex. There's going to be some, like an exercise that I take you guys through for you to have a look at, which you can take away yourself and use anywhere throughout your life. So it's relevant in this conversation for your ex-partner or even the partner you're currently with, but you can use this exercise with yourself, which may sound a bit strange, but I've worked with people that have had relationship problems with money, so they can work through this with money. So with this topic, the reason that it's so important, when we come out of a relationship, we tend to have a bit of time to get over the previous person before we end up in a new relationship. And getting over someone isn't actually identifying and releasing all of the emotions that are linked to the previous relationship we've been in. And when we've been in a relationship, we've had lots of different experiences, good and bad, and also traumas, and these create different behaviors that we naturally respond to, because we've got such a lovely, clever mind. It does so much for protecting us, which aren't always good things. So when we have different experiences, if you're looking at like a bad experience in a relationship, we can end up with these unconscious reactive behaviors that when we're in the new relationship can come out if they're triggered by a certain event that happens, or even something that the new partner says. And when we have these unconscious reactive behaviors, the whole relationship can come crashing down. And if we even look outside of a relationship, just so I can make sure you guys are understanding what I'm talking about with this unconscious reactive behavior, when you're driving, if someone jumps out in the road in front of you, or a car slams their brakes on, instinctively you just straight away hit the brakes, because you just know to do that. It's not something you necessarily have to think about. And these are just one of those behaviors that we have programmed into our mind from when we learn to drive, from when we have driving experiences. And like I said, people slam brakes on or just walk out in the road. If you can comment in the chat, guys, just let me know that this is making sense so far before I keep moving on. Cool, that's good. I get very passionate about this, so I sometimes ramble on, and then people go, can you just repeat that? So that's good, that's good. I want to give you a story. I'll try and keep the story short, and it's one that's a personal story. When I hadn't first met my wife, we was into a relationship, but this very thing, I hadn't healed my previous relationship, so this very thing came up, and I'm very thankful that my wife didn't get rid of me there and then. So the previous woman I was with, she was very emotionally abusive. I'm kind of past that now, because I understand why she was. But she was incredibly unfaithful. She used to cheat on me all the time, and I think it was actually because she wanted to hurt me, because she made it clear. Anyway, when I was in the relationship with my wife now, she knew I was insecure because of what I'd been through, and every time she would kind of talk to people that I didn't know, used to have that little niggle in the back of my brain. Oh, who's this person? And just not feel great about myself, really. Anyway, we managed to get through a certain period of time, and I took her away for her birthday to Rome, which was a bit extravagant because I didn't have much money then. Maybe so I was just so insecure. I wanted to, really make sure she loved me, which that's not how it works, but I tried my best. Anyway, so we got to Rome, and I still remember it so clear now. So we was walking around the Colosseum. She takes her phone out because it buzzes. And I didn't really think much, but in the corner of my eye, I saw it said something like Roman or something on there. And I was like, oh, don't really know who that person is. Put her phone away. Another 10 minutes later, still walking around the Colosseum. Phone buzzes again. I'm like, wow, she's got another text again. And I saw again, it said like Roman or something like that. I'm thinking, this isn't on. We've only been here like a couple of hours. And who's this guy texting her? She doesn't work with anyone called Roman. I don't know any friends that she's got that are called Roman. And he's texted her twice. You've only just got here. I didn't say anything. I just kept it all in. And I was furious. I was literally walking around Rome the rest of the day, so angry. And I come up with so many stories. How long have they been seeing each other behind my back? All of these other things. Anyway, later on, we got back to the hotel room. And when we was at the hotel room, ding, her phone goes again. And I looked over, it's Roman again. And I lost it. I was like, who's this guy called Roman? I've never heard of him. Why is he texting you? Blah, blah, blah. Just all this rubbish. And lucky for me, she laughed. And I was like, brilliant. So she actually finds it funny. I was like, what's funny? Who's this guy? I don't even know who he is. And she went, I'm not texting a guy. And she showed me the phone and it said roaming. And immediately I was like, oh, I can't believe it, because when you get abroad and turn your phone on, you get the roaming message that comes that says, if you send text messages, if you make phone calls, it's going to cost you this much, if you use data and so on. So in that moment, I had made up this whole story. It was only in Rome for 2 days, and one day I was completely ruined. And it was all because of something that happened in my previous relationship. It was nothing to do with her. She'd never been unfaithful to me. But when we go into a new relationship, we go in on like a level playing field. And trust is one of those things that, yes, you do need to earn. But I went into the relationship with negative trust just because of what I'd been through previously. And it could have had a much bigger effect on my relationship if she wasn't so understanding, because she knew what I went through from the previous relationship. So lucky for me, Roman hasn't texted her since, which is good news. But it's always one of those things that stuck in my mind. And after that, I didn't have the tools I've now got to kind of work through relationships, but it took me a really long time to build the self-confidence and really overcome the wound that I had from being hurt so much before. And I never questioned her again, who was texting her and so on. Because I know it's a horrible feeling. Has anyone else here had that feeling where they've been in a relationship with someone where they've been unfaithful, and then when you're with that person or a new person in a relationship and they get a message or something, you just feel uneasy? Yeah.
I've been on the receiving end of that.
I've been in a relationship with someone
who was making me pay for that.
Yeah, it's so real. It really is. It's one of those things that it takes a lot to overcome. And most of us do have not problems with our relationship with ourselves, but if we think about when we grow up, we're taught to think of others and care for others. But I don't remember when I was growing up anyone ever saying that you really just, the number one priority in life is to love yourself. If you love yourself, then you'll be the happiest person in the world. I was never told that. And I think where I put so much of my efforts growing up on pleasing everyone else and not really thinking too highly of myself that I just didn't have much confidence. So I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. And I always think, yeah, and I always think I just want sex from me. I mean, I won't even go into that conversation now. But I work with people on their mental health, but I end up with a lot of couples coming to me with relationship problems. And there's always a massive disconnect in the physical side of a relationship, but that is definitely one for another day. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the 6 layers of human emotion. And I think someone sent a message in earlier asking if you could use this on healing a relationship with someone that's passed. And yes, you most certainly can. So when you're healing a relationship, a previous relationship, it's not always for a negative reason. That all of these emotions still exist. And I've actually worked with people and coached them on a session where they've been working through this with the same kind of circumstances. And, you know, when I'll show you kind of when we go through the exercise, but one of the things they was really angry about was that this person had left them, and that this person hadn't left them on purpose. You know, they were taken too soon in their life. However, it's an emotion that we can't ignore. It's a feeling we can't ignore, and it's all to do with the love for that person. But it's something that we need to vocalize, we need to move through, which I'll go through that with you soon. But I just wanted to mention that because it's very important that you realize it doesn't have to be a negative thing working through a relationship with someone that was maybe horrific to you in the previous relationship. So I hope that makes sense. Has anyone got any other questions before I move on to the 6 layers? No. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and share my screen just to show you. It's very, very simple. Just got to try and find it on my computer. Right, I can't see the chat anymore, but can you guys see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So this is just I'm actually in the process of creating a self-help program for people, so it's really accessible for the masses, really, just to have some tools that they can work on themselves to manage their mental health and just, you know, be the best version of themselves. And I've started to put this together for the program so people can work through it. So if you look here, the 6 layers of human emotion, if you look, there's anger, pain, fear, regret, desire, love, and appreciation. And they are literally stacked in this way. And you don't have one of them without having the other working from the top down. But in order for us to get to the love and appreciation, we really have to work hard to move through all of the different emotions, and we have to isolate them one at a time. And it's really important that we do that and really connect with the exercise when we're doing that, so we can just release as much as we've got going on. Now, the exercise itself, you can use it multiple times. And I know clients that have used the same exercise on the same person multiple times and had different things that have come up. And that's just where they're moving on and slowly healing the relationship, because you can't just heal a trauma or wound in, say, like one session. There's a period of time you have to keep working through things and just getting those breakthroughs. Let's see if I can get the chat up here as well, in case anything comes up while I'm. Right, so where am I here? So here, this is the total truth letter. That's what this called, this exercise. And it literally is to just let go of everything that you've got going on inside. And you're never to do this with the intentions of sending it to the person or telling the person about it, because the importance of this is you're trying to heal the relationship within yourself. You're not trying to heal the relationship with that person, because I don't think many new partners would like it if you went meeting up with your ex to try and heal that relationship. I don't think it'd go down too well. But once you heal the relationship within yourself, that's when you can start to move on. So when you're going through this exercise, it's really important to vocalize everything that's coming up, let it all out unfiltered, and also writing it down as you go. If you're able to do that, you don't have to. And when I'm coaching people with this exercise one-on-one, we can get really deep on it, and we never write anything down, because the idea is they get the emotional breakthroughs that they can then have as takeaways. I feel that fear drives my anger. Sorry, I'm just going to catch up with the chat before I move on. Yeah, so all of these have a direct relationship with the other ones that they kind of trigger. And as we work from the top down, that's when we can even identify things in the unconscious mind that are trapped. Because a lot of the things that we think make us angry about a person, they are some of the things, but we also have the things that are trapped in our unconscious mind. And when you're doing this exercise, if you're doing this exercise completely unfiltered, you will get things come up and you're like, wow, that really surprised me. I don't even know where that come from. So when you're preparing to do this, and I'll send this through anyway, to anyone that wants a copy of it. I know it's very simple and basic, but if you've got it there as a reminder, then it can help you to work through the exercise. So when you're doing it, it's really good if you're able to get a picture of the person. Worst case, visualize, but if you can get a picture of them, it's really good, because you want to be speaking to the person. You want to be looking at them to really bring up those emotions that you've got trapped inside. And as you keep going through each one and you're speaking it out unfiltered, just literally keep going until you feel like there's nothing left. And when you think there's nothing left, see if there's anything more that comes out after that. I mean, you don't have to stay stuck on it for a long time, but it's really important to, when you get stuck, see if there's just anything else there, because that could give you one of your biggest breakthroughs. I've seen it before, but also at times some people are just complete when they get to the end of the list that they've exhausted. So when you're, I was just going to say something on here and it's literally slipped out of my mind. Let me just think. We'll come back to it. I'm sure I'll find it somewhere in my head at some moment in time. So when you start the exercise, you literally start with the anger, which is I am angry that or when, and you just let all of these things go. It could be I'm angry that you cheated on me with my friend, or you left me when I was at a party, or it can go all the way down to the deepest things that you're feeling angry about. I've worked with quite a few people that have been abused, and they really, they can go on for a long time just getting rid of all that anger. They've got so much that's there that they can just let so much out. And it's so important to let go of everything that you've got. And as you move through each stage, just feel as though when you've got past the anger and you move on to the next one, that you're kind of letting go of that emotionally and energetically. Is so important, because we store all these things inside of our body that we don't even know about, but it does have such an effect on our health as well as our mental health. So number one, you move through I am angry that or when. where can we find this after the call? What I will do, I can either send it to the team and they can maybe send it on, or I can, or you can drop me an email and I can send it directly to you. So yeah, I mean, that's also an option. I just don't get closure. Yeah, this is really, really good. A lot of people don't get closure. It's so true, and that can work whether if you lose someone, or if you're in a relationship, if someone leaves you unexplained, there's always lots of things there. Or there's a lot of people that I've worked with that have had childhood trauma, and they just, this is such a breakthrough for them, such a big breakthrough, because they haven't had the opportunity to go back to kind of when there was a child to work on these things. So once you've moved on from that, you go on to it hurts me when. And if similar things come up, don't judge them, don't not put them down, because there will be a relevance there within yourself that there will be a relevance there that you need to just let it all out. So if it does duplicate the answers from the question above, that's absolutely fine. Just keep going, and yeah. And once you've done that one, then moved on to the next. So with I'm just going to move this chat box for a second. So with some of these, what can happen, and I just want you to be aware of this if you are going to work through it, but what can happen is dependent on the previous relationship and how potentially traumatic the experience was, or if there's still a lot of emotion attached to the relationship, you can get stuck on some of them. And you know what, if you get stuck on them, just don't force yourself. Just revisit it a couple of days later, a week later, or reach out for support on it. Because when you've got the support on it, you can get a bit deeper. There was actually, just while we're on that I'm sorry, that every time I see that one, I always get triggered. Not a bad trigger. A thought gets triggered. I was coaching a guy, and he'd been in a really emotionally and physically abusive relationship. And the day he got on the call with me, he was saying, I'm really scared because if I see her again, he hadn't seen her for 2 years. If I see her again, I'm scared that I want to kill her because I'm so angry. When we got down to, I'm sorry that, he said, well, I'm not sorry for anything. And that's just an automatic response that most of us would say, especially when we've been in a tough situation. What I did, I just reminded him how his ex-partner had come upon all of these behaviors that she had. Hurt people. We're all born pure, happy children, even if it's just for a very short period of time in our life, depending on when, potentially bad things happened. We've all had traumatic experiences. So we spoke about this in some detail. And when he really understood that she hasn't deliberately created these behaviors, he actually remembered that her dad was really abusive towards her. And that's likely why she was then abusive towards him. So we came back to the exercise to, I'm sorry that, and he's like, I'm sorry that I didn't recognize that you needed help too. And I could see it in his face. He was like, oh, and that's not for him to feel bad, because he didn't know what he didn't know at the time. But everything shifted from there, and he moved all the way down from there to, I love and appreciate you for. Now, with the love and appreciate, if it doesn't feel right to use the word love, that's absolutely fine. Go with whatever feels right for you. Because if we've been working with someone on a relationship with someone that, say, abused us, using the word love can sometimes feel quite difficult. However, if even in this example, while we're on it, there was a lady that I was being coached when I was doing my training. And she was going through this actual exercise, and she had been abused when she was younger. And she got stuck on, I appreciate you for. And the coach he asked her, are you a parent? She's like, yes, I'm a parent. And she was like, yeah, and I'd never let that happen to my kids. So you went, oh, cool. So is there anything you can appreciate about the experience that you went through? Even though it's not a nice experience, what she went through, is there anything you can appreciate? And she got to the place of, yeah, even though it's not a nice thing what happened to me, my children will never go through that because I know all the signs to look for. And it's a hard place to get to depending on the previous relationship. But the reason it's really important, if you can, to get down there is because the feeling of love and appreciation is the thing that heals a wound. It's the thing that heals a trauma. So I hope, has that landed for everyone here so far? Have I jumped too fast? Is there anything you want me to revisit? Yes, it all comes from your inner child. There you go. Hit the nail on the head there. It's interesting you say that. Part of my journey since I got into a really bad place with my mental health several years ago, and I did a lot of work. And once I overcame it, I was then like, I really want to help other people. And since being on this journey, and even still today, my goal that I know will make me become the happiest version of me is getting back to living like my 7-year-old self, the one that didn't have anything bad that had happened to, the one that could dream without anyone crushing it with, the reality that we live in. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. We've gone through this exercise. How do you stop yourself thinking that the next person is doing the same thing your ex? Great question. That's a really great question. Now, this is something, this actual exercise is something that if you work through this, you will emotionally and energetically release those things that you're carrying around. And even with like anger, for example, a lot of people can tell someone else is angry, even if they don't sound angry or say anything that's in an aggressive way. So if you're carrying around all of the thoughts and feelings that everyone else is going to do the same to you as your ex did, the chances are you are going to be attracting that. And it's very common for people that have been in an abusive relationship to end up in another abusive relationship because they haven't healed that. So they tend to gravitate to the similar kind of people from their ex-partner. Does that make sense? But I will send this through after. It's not like it's not a completed kind of document, but I'll send it through like this. If there's any questions, I can, anyone can just drop me an email if they need to. You've been through a traumatic experience. Your brain is there to, it's your best defense and your worst enemy.
Yeah.
You have to continuously work on reprogramming your mind. And there's so many different ways that you can do that. One of the ways is by reminding yourself. So you could do this and you could take out a few of the biggest takeaways that you've got from it that have really made you feel like you've moved on, and remind yourself of those things every single day as you're building your new life. Is there time for any other questions, if I can?
Yeah. I've also had one sent to me directly because this person wants to remain anonymous.
Yeah, that's fine.
So they said, could this work for adoption stories, as I've been adopted and struggling now to have my birth mother engage and connect with me?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can use this. You can use this on anyone and anything. And I'd encourage you to really dive into that. I mean, that's going to be a really deep one that you have to work through. And again, if you get to a point where you're like, I can't move on any further, then don't be afraid to reach out for support to work through these. Like when I was coaching the guy that was struggling, he got to, I'm sorry that, and he was like, no, I'm done. No, sorry, I'm not moving on. And then it takes me to be able to see why he isn't being able to move on from that to progress further into the exercise. So don't ever be afraid to reach out.
Somebody else has said, are there any grounding exercises you would advise people to use after the letter?
Well, after the letter, there's several things you can do. A lot of the time it depends on the relationship. Some people like to burn the letter. In nature, as long as it's safe. Okay, I did say that, as long as it's safe. Burn it in nature so it kind of turns to ashes and fades away. That's one that's quite popular. However, some people, just voicing this is enough for them to energetically and emotionally move through it. But it depends what you lean towards further. I tried to coach my wife through this, which was, never try and coach a partner. And she just couldn't really embrace the exercise by doing it verbally. Gave her pen and paper, she was at it for ages, and she had such a big breakthrough. So there's no right or wrong way for anyone. So yeah, just do what feels right for you.
I think I maybe missed the point number 5. If you can go through it again.
Point number 5.
What I really want.
Yeah, what I really want. So if you look at the kind of, got to the first page above quickly. Do you see where it says desire? Above love and appreciation. So what I really want is your desire. The emotion that is linked to his desire. Does that make sense? So what I really want.
So we need to see it in that order. So okay.
So what you would have, sorry, it's just because of the way it's displayed on the screen. You'd have the papers, I guess, side by side, just so you can really work with them together. So yeah, I mean, what I really want is, it could be anything dependent on the relationship. What I really want is for you to never bother me again. What I really want is for you to get some help yourself so you don't hurt another person. So there could be loads of different things associated to it.
What if we give it to that person?
You can give it to the person if you really want. I know one person that's done it, and it was towards her dad, and she gave it to him. It's difficult, because what you want to do is do this unfiltered, and you want to say things on there that you may not want to give to another person because of whatever reasons. The chances are, because they haven't worked through the exercise, all it's going to do initially is make them angry. And it doesn't mean they haven't got the opportunity to see all those things. But if you were going to take this to the person, I would recommend reading it to them so you can explain the context of it and not just going, here's a letter of how I really feel about you. Because I think that would go down like a lead balloon.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that for me is really important in my journey has been learning to trust myself, trust my intuition. And especially as men, we are not very well connected to our hearts. A lot of men would say, yeah, I am. But we're not like women. Women are very connected to their hearts. But our head is not always aligned with our heart. And I've spent so much time even working on that myself, so that, because I've made some bad decisions in the past. And now I have certain things I do. If I'm going to be making a decision, does that feel right in my body? Does that make sense? You know, when you get like a gut instinct. Yeah. One thing I would say, if it's ever relationship issues, I'm not saying don't talk to your friends, because it's important to talk. But friends are always biased on your side. I've been working with 3 couples over the last couple of weeks. And the biggest problem is they keep telling all their friends and getting advice from their friends on decisions they should make in their relationship, and if this is right and wrong and so on, when they're only hearing one side of the story. So it's good to have other people as a sounding board, but not as an advisor to you. Things in the couple of comments I just want to address really, really quickly if I can. So is it possible to heal all relationships? Yes, it is. And healing is a process. So healing doesn't look the same for one person as it does for another. And it's just something that we have to continuously work on. But the more we work on it, the more the wound heals, if that makes sense. And then Amy received a similar type of letter. Yeah, I mean, receiving the letter, like I said earlier, it wouldn't, unless it was all love, then from the other person's perspective, without having the right context behind it, it would bring up a lot of emotions for the other person. So it's probably not the best place to try and rekindle a relationship, that's for sure. So yeah, use the exercise to heal the relationship within yourself.
Oh, amazing. Oh, there's lovely comments in the chat, Luke. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. I love talking about this stuff because it's just so important. Healing the stuff inside of yourself that is related to everything else around us.